Daniel is now in his 80s. Remember back in chapter 1, he was only like 15 years old. It's like a sophomore in high school. So Daniel, who's now in his 80s, is given a key place in the administration of the Persian Empire, which now has supplanted the Babylonian Empire. That's how chapter 5 ended, remember? Darius the Mede came in while Belshazzar was partying. So in verse 1, we're introduced to Darius the Mede all over again.
It pleased Darius to set over the kingdom 120 satraps, to be over the whole kingdom.
I learned in the last chapter, that would be our last video, that Darius is a title. It's not a personal name. In the exact same way that Caesar served as a title in the later Roman Empire, or like president in our culture. Who was this Caesar, this president, this Darius? Persian records suggest that it is the Emperor Gubaru. I don't know if I said that right. One of King Cyrus's generals. Gubaru served as ruler of Babylon and everything west of the Euphrates, even after King Cyrus's death. Very likely Gubaru is the Darius in the book of Daniel. And verse 3 tells us that Daniel got himself a promotion. It seems like he gets a promotion in every chapter.
And over these 3 governors, of whom Daniel was one, that the satraps might give account to them, so that the king would suffer no loss. Then this Daniel distinguished himself above the governors and satraps, because an excellent spirit was in him, and the king gave thought to setting him over the whole realm.
So verse 3 tells us that Daniel was promoted to one of 3 governors in the entire empire. And of all 3, he was the most distinguished. And is it any wonder? Daniel had experience, he had wisdom, he had a sense of history, he had ability, he had a servant's heart. Oh, and did I mention he had revelation from the God of heaven? Well played, Daniel. Well played. So in verses 4 and 5, we learn that Daniel's fierce honesty arouses the hostility of his corrupt co-workers.
So the governors and satraps sought to find some charge against Daniel concerning the kingdom. But they could find no charge or fault, because he was faithful, nor was there any error or fault found in him. Then these men said,
"We shall not find any charge against this Daniel, unless we find it against him concerning the law of his God."
Daniel's promotion to one of the 3 governors of the empire and being the favorite of the king, his spiritual reputation, it aroused intense jealousy. And later on in verse 13, we're given even a more clear picture of what they really think of Daniel, of where this jealousy is coming from. Coming from 2 things, man. Number 1, according to verse 13, part of this was racial antagonism. And here we go again with the anti-Semitism. Here Daniel is a governor of Babylon, and how do his accusers refer to him in verse 13? One of the captives of Judah. Just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, part of this is racial, and the other part is a natural jealousy. In other words, sore losers. And get this, by the time we get to chapter 6, Daniel has been in Babylon for over 60 years. According to chapter 5, verse 13, his loyalty to the rulers of Babylon was well known. But despite his loyalty, his consistent faithfulness to God brought jealousy and a threat to his life. We saw this with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. I mean, if you're going to be accused of something, your faithfulness and commitment to God, I'll take that. I am by far not even close to being a Daniel, but I want to be. So in verses 6 through 12, these accusers of Daniel, they appeal to the pride of the Persian ruler, Gubaru, Darius the Mede. And they get him to make a decree that no one can make a request to either man or God other than to himself for 30 days. Dude, are you kidding me?
All the governors of the kingdom, the administrators and satraps, the counselors and advisors, have consulted together to establish a royal statute and to make a firm decree that whoever petitions any god or man for 30 days, except you, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions.
Thrown to the lions? Why is everybody in the ancient world so brutal? We're not even done being brutal. Wait till we get to the end of this chapter. Now guess what? In verse 8, this decree, this new law, when it's put into effect, it's put into effect. It can't be changed.
Now, O king, establish the decree and sign the writing, so that it cannot be changed, according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which does not alter.
Therefore King Darius signed the written decree.
This truth about a Persian law not being able to be changed has been confirmed in 2 other sources. So you can't pray, make requests to God or man, you have to go through the king. That is such pride. I wonder what Daniel's going to do about it in verse 10.
Now when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, he went home. And in his upper room, with his windows open toward Jerusalem, he knelt down on his knees 3 times that day, and prayed and gave thanks before his God, as was his custom since early days.
Daniel prayed where he always had prayed, in his home, upstairs, window open, facing Jerusalem. That's how he talked to God. Daniel did not directly challenge Darius's law, but neither would he retreat from his open commitment to God. There is a serious balance here that Daniel does that's very difficult for us to maintain. You know what? I got a question. I wonder if these jealous, racist accusers of Daniel are going to sit off and spy on him to see if he's going to break the new law.
Then these men assembled and found Daniel praying and making supplication before his God.
They catch Daniel doing as was his custom since early days, and they go tell the king. Ooh, and he's not happy. So in verses 13 to 16, we learn that the distraught ruler, Gubaru, is unable to save Daniel. For as we already learned, custom demanded that once the decree was made by a Persian ruler, it can't be changed.
That Daniel, who is one of the captives from Judah, does not show due regard for you, O king, or for the decree that you have signed, but makes his petition 3 times a day.
And the king, when he heard these words, was greatly displeased with himself, and set his heart on Daniel to deliver him. And he labored till the going down of the sun to deliver him.
He labored all night, but to no avail. So in verse 16, the king did what he had to do. As Daniel is being thrown to the lions, the king's last hope is that somehow Daniel's God, the God of the Bible, will be able to save him.
So the king gave the command, and they brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lions. But the king spoke, saying to Daniel,
Your God, whom you serve continually, he will deliver you.
These words of the king to Daniel right before he's going to execute him, it shows a budding faith or a hope that King Darius had. The king knew and he valued Daniel's ultimate allegiance to the living God. Daniel converts everybody he's around. So in verses 17 to 23, after a sleepless night, King rushes to the den to discover Daniel alive and well. I love Daniel's intimate response to the king.
Then the king arose very early in the morning and went in haste to the den of lions. And when he came to the den, he cried out with a lamenting voice to Daniel,
Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to deliver you from the lions?
O king, live forever. My God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths, so that they have not hurt me, because I was found innocent before him. And also, O king, I have done no wrong before you.
Daniel said that my God sent his angel. This miracle, this angel, which means messenger, could very well be that 4th person that we saw walking in the fire. None other than the Lord Jesus Christ in a pre-incarnate appearance. So the chapter concludes in verses 24 to 28, and it's graphic. Daniel's accusers, the plotters, are thrown into the lion's den themselves. These people in the ancient world did not play around. Look what happens in verse 24, man.
and the king gave the command. And they brought those men who had accused Daniel, and they cast them into the den of lions, them, their children, and their wives. And the lions overpowered them, and broke all their bones in pieces before they ever came to the bottom of the den.
This sin against God, Darius, and Daniel cost these men and their families their lives. These were hungry kitty cats. And the king decrees that throughout his realm, all men must honor the God of Daniel. Where have we heard that before? And this chapter clearly teaches us to keep on doing what's right and rely on God to guard you. Sometimes that's easier said than done, isn't it? See you next week for Daniel chapter 7. Boom!